To get more on President Xi Jinping's speech earlier today at the opening ceremony of the Boao Forum for Asia, as well as more on regional integration and regional cooperation, let's bring in Mr. Xu Sitao, Chief Economist at Deloitte. Sitao, welcome to the program.
Pleasure to be here.
So Sitao, you were at the opening ceremony today where President Xi Jinping delivered his opening remarks. Give us your general thoughts on the speech.
Well, my general thought was, of course, all these people have talked about the shock, inflation and disruption supply chain. I think the assuring message from President Xi is the Chinese economy is extremely resilient, and I do share that sentiment. Not only Chinese consumers have been withstanding all these shocks, China's external sector has been performing extremely strongly, actually in past 2.5 years. So this is very ensuring, and of course, regional collaboration and integration, continue the theme, right? Because in the end, most economies in this part of the world, in general, are pro-business, economic development. Policymakers tend to be more pragmatic. So against the backdrop of higher inflation, of course, if you bring down trade barriers, then you mitigate such an external shock. So this is the impression I'm getting.
Yeah, we're going to talk about RCEP, which definitely
indeed
lowers trade barriers in just a second. But President Xi also spoke about working together to promote the economic recovery. How do you see Asia's role in all of this?
Working together, first of all, Asia could set a good example. In fact, on trade liberalization, Asia could set a gold standard, right? Not just goods and potentially services. A lot can be done. And bear in mind, Asia is extremely economically diversified. So you have a country with the highest per capita GDP, that's Japan. You have resources rich developed countries. You also have large economies still in catch-up phase. By the way, including China. China's still in catch-up phase. So definitely, I think this part of the region can set a good example on trade liberalization. More than that, I think collaboration also means COVID mitigation. So for example, potentially, we mutually recognize vaccine, so we make travel bubble more robust. So imagine next year your studio will be a lot busier, and this island, will be a lot busier.
Well, one of the major themes at Boao 2022 is about creating a shared future.
Yeah.
So delegates this year, we're looking not just navigating through COVID, but we're looking beyond COVID-19 as well in terms of what kind of growth and development model that we want to see. Now, at one of the sessions I attended, Professor Kishore Mahbubani, who is a very renowned geopolitical scientist, he said that Asia needs to remain united. And that right now there are economic headwinds as well as geopolitical tensions that may have the potential to fracture Asia. Asia overall in the past few decades has been this area of stability, of consistency that has really provided a huge engine of economic growth. So faced with all these headwinds, how do you really see Asia keeping cooperation and integration together with all the uncertainties that we see to create this shared future?
Well, I think Asia can continue to do what it has been doing. I mean, unlike other part of the world, some of these organizations to look at ASEAN, that's where Kishu is from, right? ASEAN, he has been championing ASEAN, right? ASEAN is very loosely connected, and perhaps that's a strength, because if you are being loosely connected and you tend to project greater confidence to others, right? You can reduce distrust and hostility. And also, I mean, the big picture remains, the growth future in this part of the world remains very promising. So you take any economy, for example, Indonesia, long-term growth 6 to 7, India around 8, China catch-up phase still between 4 to 5. So this is something other part of the region simply do not have.
Yeah, and of course, RCEP, the world's largest free trade agreement, that is definitely going to be a catalyst in terms of spurring our global recovery forward.
So maybe just a few words on RCEP.
Yeah.
So if you look at RCEP, the angle I prefer to view is, so you have China versus Southeast Asia, right? It's really China's largest trading partner, and cultural affinity and economically complementary. And you also have economic powerhouses, Japan, South Korea, and China. By the way, we don't have a free trade agreement yet. So imagine on this platform, you could see step changes taking place, really just at grassroots level between Chinese companies and Japanese companies and Korean companies. So, and this would lead to greater trade liberalization, in my opinion, in service area down the road.
Yeah, I mean, this is the first free trade agreement that links China, Japan, and South Korea.
Yes.
That is quite unique about RCEP in general. We are on this beautiful tropical island of Hainan, and this entire province is a free trade port.
Right.
And China has stressed that this will be a high quality, global, international free trade port. And I was wondering, how do you see Hainan as sort of a key node to link RCEP together? There's a lot of preferential policies here, so I view this potentially as a springboard.
So for example, a lot of people from the mainland, they come here to what, right? To buy duty-free goods. Perhaps you will be doing that. Your colleague will be doing that.
I did that last year.
Yeah.
I haven't done it yet this year.
So that's quite natural. But for Hainan, I mean, it's beyond this, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if it really just serving that purpose, that would be quite insignificant. So I would say clearly in areas such like data, capital movement, and trade link with ASEAN countries, this island can be a trailblazer. So beyond what you and I are doing just outside this studio.
Yeah. And what about the CPTPP? Because China is working to join the CPTPP as well. And one panelist at the forum spoke about potentially harmonizing RCEP and CPTPP. Do you see that eventually happening? Is that possible?
I think it's definitely possible, and CPTPP entails some liberalization, for example, service sectors. At this juncture, could be challenging, for emerging market. By the way, Vietnam is in CPTPP, so I think China definitely can do it in a few years. A number of countries in this part of the world, I mean, for example, Indonesia is already launching internal, study, feasibility study. So I do think you aim high. So I think at some point we'll get there.
Real quick, we're running out of time, but I really want to ask you this. China recently announced that it will accelerate the speeding up of the development of a unified domestic market.
Right.
I mean, that has huge implications and opportunities, I feel, for RCEP and for businesses around the region.
Well, and just imagine, when we travel, imagine we only need one health code. Don't you think that would be easier, right?
Yeah.
So there you go.
Huge potential.
Yes.
Okay. So all these amplifying factors together, I guess, RCEP and then China building this unified domestic market. Certainly lots of opportunities for businesses, large and small. We're going to leave it there. Thank you so much for your insights on this.
Thank you.
Sitao, Chief Economist at Deloitte. Thank you.